All right, welcome. So we're in Unit 4, 4.1, Slope of a Line. So this unit will be talking a lot about linear equations. That may sound familiar, like y equals mx plus b. We'll be focusing on slope, and then we'll spend a day doing intercept, and then graphing from slope-intercept form, and then also writing slope-intercept form from a graph. And then we're going to talk about some applications of linear equations. Sorry, my voice feels like it's a little dry, so sorry, just bear with me. All right, so we'll be taking a test. Just a reminder that Wednesdays there'll be something on Canvas for you to do. Most likely just a short quiz over the lessons that we've covered previously, or it could just be like a review, something like that. All right, so let's get into this. So slope of a line. All right, so to find the slope can be written in lots of different ways. Slope oftentimes is rise over run, and that's usually what we'll talk about is rise over run. Sometimes it's also written as change in y over the change in x, or delta y over delta x, where delta means like difference. Or this is something that you're going to want to know too, and this is basically the difference in y's and the difference in x's. So when we have 2 points and we want to find the slope, we're going to use that. Okay? So slope can be positive, like these examples. It can also be negative. It can have a slope of 0, or it can be undefined, an undefined slope. All right, so just remember, I always think about this way, going left to right, just like when you read. If you were walking this direction, you're getting higher, a positive slope. If you are going on that slope, it's going down, so it's negative, it brings you down, okay? Slope of 0, okay, you're not going up or down. An undefined slope, oh boy, that's like you're rock climbing or something, you're not even going left or right at all, okay? So undefined slope, okay? And again, when we talk about rise over run, here, the rise, if we go from 2 points, the rise here, maybe let's say that says 2, negative 2, and this is 0. So here the rise here would be 2, but the run would be 0. And if you try and plug that into your calculator, you would get an error. You can't divide something by 0. All right? So that's why it is undefined. All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is finding the slope given a graph. All right. So here it gives us 2 points. It really doesn't matter what points you use. It depends if you want to do just rise over run, which I feel like is the easiest way to do it. But we'll probably do both because eventually, well, I guess we'll just do it later. Okay. So let's just do the slope here. Rise over run. So here's our point. We're going to go rise over run. So the rise here is 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4, and the run is 1, 2, 3. So rise, oops, the rise is 4, and the run is 3. So the slope, which we'll call m, is 4/3. Okay, and for your slopes, I'd like you to just leave it as a fraction. Okay, all right, so here's another example. Our rise is always our up or down, so our y's. Okay, so we'll go down. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go down 5, and then we'll go over 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now since it's down, it's going to be negative. We're going to go down 5. Okay, so that would give us negative 5 over 4. If you want to do it this way as 5 over 4 and then just look and say, well, is the slope negative or positive? Then you could put the negative, okay? So either way, I would just start at my first point that's on the right side. If I have to go down, it's going to be negative, so down 5. And then right will always be positive, so over 4. Okay, so here's some other examples of the ones we were talking about above. So this one, what kind of slope would this be? Well, we'll do our rise. Well, the rise here is 0. Okay, so the rise is 0. It doesn't go up or down. And then the run, you can go between those 2 points. Here that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the run would be 5. So rise over run would be 0 over 5. Well, that's just 0. Okay, so this is a slope of 0. It doesn't go, it's not positive, it's not negative, it's just flat. It would be a slope of 0. And then here again is another example of when it's a vertical line. Okay, then we could do our rise. Well, the rise between those 2 points would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the run, it doesn't go left or right at all, so it would be a run of 0. And again, that is undefined. Okay, an undefined slope. All right, so sorry, I don't have other examples for you to try, but you can give those a try on your homework. All right? All right, so find the slope through 2 points, a pair of points, okay? So here we're going to want to use the formula up here for the slope, which is the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. Okay, and I'll write that again over here. So the slope from 2 points is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so for this example, we could have this be x1 and y1, and this could be x2 and y2, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which point you use as your first point and which one to use for your second point. Okay, so we'll just plug those in. So m is equal to y2. Well, that's a negative 16 minus y1, okay, and that's a negative 12. Okay, make sure if you have a negative value that you put it in a parenthesis, okay, because now we're going to have a double negative will give us a positive, and I'll do that in the next step. Okay, and then we'll do x2, which is negative 3, minus x1, which here is a negative 6. So that gives us negative 16 plus 12 over negative 3 plus 6. So again, please, and this is probably the only mistake that I see, like 95% of the mistakes are this, okay? Not having it as a double negative, okay? All right, so now we'll just simplify that. So negative 16 plus 12, well, that gives you a negative 4. And negative 3 plus 6, that gives us a positive 3. So our slope here is negative 4/3. Okay? All right. Okay, I like to do it that way. I know that some students will like write something like 6 and negative 12 underneath, and then they just subtract that way, which is okay as long as you're very careful with doing that, okay? So here we'd do negative 1 minus 6 gives you negative 7, and then negative 8 minus a negative gives us a positive 12. It ends up giving us a positive 4. Okay, and then we have to write it as a rise over run. Difference in the y's over the x's, so we'd need to do 4 over negative 7. See, and I feel like there's too many mistakes, or it's easy to have mistakes, okay? So if you do it that way, just be cautious. The rest of the time, I'm going to use the formula. So here I'll say like x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So I'd do negative 12 minus a negative 8 divided by 6 minus a negative 1. And that gives us negative 12 plus 8 over 6 plus 1, which gives us negative 4 over 7. So we end up getting the same thing, but again, I feel like that is prone to having mistakes for students, especially if it's like a negative, if our values are negatives. Okay? All right, so pause and see if you can give C and D a try. All right? So hopefully you gave that a try, and let's see what we come up with. So just for a heck of it, okay, I'm just going to have my x1 and y1 to be on that side, and x2 and y2 on that side. And if you did it differently, it doesn't matter, you'll end up getting the same answer. So m is equal to the difference of the y's, so negative 3 minus a negative 15 over our x's, so we'll do negative 4 minus a negative 3. So that ends up giving us negative 3 plus 15 all over negative 4 plus 3. Okay, and then last but not least, we'll end up getting negative 3 plus 15. Well, that gives us positive 12. And then negative 4 plus 3, well, that gives you a negative 1. So here we end up getting a slope of a negative 12. Okay, so if we can simplify our fractions, we should, okay, for full points. All right, and then hopefully you gave this one a try too, so I'm going to do x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so I'll do the difference of the y's, so negative 7 minus a negative 13 over the difference of the x's, so that'd be negative 17 minus 1. Okay. Again, always put parentheses around negative values. Okay, so we'll have negative 7 plus 13 all over, and I'll just combine those together because we don't have to worry about double negatives, so that ends up giving us a negative 18. All right, and then our numerator, negative 7 plus 13, that gives you 6 over negative 18. And it looks like we can reduce our fraction. We could divide top and bottom by 6. So we'll end up getting negative, and it doesn't matter if this negative is on the bottom or the top. I'll always bring it out in the front, okay? And that leaves us with 1 over 3. So the slope is negative 1/3. All right, okay. And last but not least, okay, is finding the slope, or not given the slope, we want to find a missing value in a point, okay? So it says find the value of x or y so that the line through the point has the given slope, okay? So we're using the exact same formula. You just have one, we're not, instead of trying to solve for the slope, we're trying to solve either, if we had this be x1 and this be y1, this would be x2 and y2. Here we're missing y2, all right? So we'll plug in everything just the same way. So here we have our slope is 2/3. Before we had m is equal to, okay, so we know what slope is. This is m, is equal to the difference in the y's. So here we'd do y minus 1 all over the difference in the x's. So here I'll do x2 minus x1, so that'd be 4 minus a negative 2. Okay. And then we'll just simplify. So we have 2/3 is equal to y minus 1 over 4 plus 2. So this would be a plus now. Gives us a 6. And now this looks just like cross multiplication. Okay. So that's what I would do. Okay, so I'd multiply these. That gives me 12 is equal to, and then I'd multiply these. So that gives me 3 times y minus 1. Okay? And then we could distribute. So I'll do it over here. 12 is equal to 3y minus 3. Okay, we distribute that 3 to everything inside. All right, then I'll subtract, or add 3 to both sides. Okay, that gives you 15 is equal to 3y. And then we'll divide both sides by 3. Okay, and we'll simplify, so we end up getting y is equal to 15 divided by 3 is 5. All right, sounds good. So I'd like you, maybe I'll try one more, and then you try those other two. So same sort of thing, we'll do, maybe this will be x1 and y1, x2 and y2, and this is our slope. Okay, if it's slope, that means we have something over 0. It doesn't really matter what you have, but we'll just write it that way. Okay, and we'll see what happens. So 1 over 0 is equal to x2, or sorry, difference of y is on the top, so negative 4 minus 7 is all over x2 minus x1, so x minus 5. Okay, so here we'll cross multiply. Well, maybe we'll simplify this first. So 1 over 0 is equal to negative 11 over x minus 5, and then we'll cross multiply. So 0 times negative 7 gives you 0. And then when we cross multiply, that gives us 1 times x minus 5, and that's just x minus 5. Okay, so if you did put a 1 and distributed, you'd end up getting the same thing. It doesn't change anything. And then we want to solve for x, so we'll just add 5 to both sides, and we get x is equal to 5. Okay? Which kind of makes sense. If we had these points, if it's undefined, let me just kind of draw a little picture. If this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's that first point. And then we just found out that the second point is 5 comma negative 4. So that's here, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be right here. It'd be a vertical line, okay? And the equation for that, which we'll talk about that in the future, maybe we just don't talk about that now, but that equation would be x equals 5. Okay, it doesn't matter what y is, it will always be x will always be 5. Okay, so pause and see if you can try C and D, and then that will be it. All right, so here I'm going to call, hopefully you give this a try. Okay, and our slope, so we'll use our formula, so m is negative 3/7 is equal to the difference in the y's, so 7 minus 4 is equal to the difference of the x's, so that would be x minus 5. All right, so I'll simplify that. That gives me negative 3/7 is equal to 3 over x minus 5. Cross multiply, so 7 times 3 is 21. And then we'll multiply those. That gives us negative 3 x minus 5. All right. Another thing you could do this, instead of distributing, you could divide both sides by a negative 3. Sorry, my 3's are struggling today. Okay, that would give you negative 7 is equal to x minus 5. And then we would add 5 to both sides. That's probably how I would do it. So that gives us x is equal to negative 2. All right. If you cross multiply, that's just fine. Or as I did that anyways, but you don't need to distribute if you wanted to. Okay. All right. Let's one more try. So x1 and y1, x2 and y2, and this is our slope. So we'd do 1, and if you wanted to write it as a fraction, you could do 1 over 1 is equal to the difference of the y's, so 4 minus a negative y. Okay. I don't know if I intended to have it be that way, but we can still do it this same way. Okay, and then the difference of the x's, so negative 1 minus 2. So we will simplify. So we have 1 over 1 is equal to 4 plus y. So remember, negative and a negative gives you a positive, all over negative 3. So negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. We'll cross multiply. So you may be concerned if you didn't have that 1 underneath, you may be curious on how are we supposed to do this problem. Okay, so cross multiply. That gives us negative 3 is equal to, and then that just gives us 4 plus y. And then we'd subtract 4 from both sides. So we'd get y is equal to negative 7. Okay? All right. So that's it. Here's just a summary. We're going to maybe go over this. If you're all good with that, you'll probably be fine, but let's just go over these really quick. So these are different ways we can find slopes. So from graphs, we can find rise over run. So we want to choose 2 points. Oftentimes on your homework, it's not going to give you points. So maybe, I'm going to use my red. So here is a point, and here is a point. So we just find what's the rise. Here's 2. What's the run is 1. So the slope is going to be rise over run, or 2 for this example. Okay. And then here's another. We could have a point here and a point here. So here it goes down 1, so we'll do negative 1 and over 3. So the slope here would be negative 1/3. All right, we can also find slope from an equation. So we'll be talking more about slope-intercept form, but suffice to say, the slope is always m. So m is the slope, so all we have to do is locate it from an equation. So here, our slope here would be 4/3. Here, the slope here would be negative 3. Slope here would be 15. Okay, this is a tricky one. What do you think the slope is for D? Again, all equations can be written as a slope-intercept. So what does m have to be? Okay, if we had our equation, what does this have to be? I guess I kind of just wrote it there. It has to be a 0, right, for it to cancel out. So the slope here would be 0. Okay, it's going to look something like, if we had a graph and this was 5, it would be like that. All right, we can find it with 2 points. We just did that, so we just label the numbers, so x1 and y1, x2, y2, and we substitute everything in, okay, and then we evaluate, okay? So again, I guess one more example here, we could do m is equal to, so y2 minus y1 is over x2 minus x1, okay? So that would give us 12 over 4, which gives us 3. So here the slope would be 3. B, same sort of thing, okay? You can do that if you'd like. And then also for word problems. So, and we'll spend a whole lesson on word problems, but these are key words for slope, okay? Per, every, each, okay? So for example, Jack has 5 toy trains. He plans to buy 2 new ones each month. So the slope here would be 2 trains per month, okay? And slope always has some sort of rise over run if we're talking about real world situations, okay? And trains would be your rise and month is your run. So you could write it like that if you wanted to. Initial value, initial fee for a website costs $48. It costs $22 per month to maintain the website. So here the slope here would be $44 per month. Okay? So $44 per 1 month. Okay? And we'll just write it as 44. All right, and then an online camera store charges $1.49 for every picture that you order. The shipping cost is $5.50. All right, so this would be its initial value, And this would be for every, again, that's kind of the key word here, the slope here would be $1.49 per picture. All right, so that's about it. If you have questions, let me know. Hope you are doing well.